Hello there, and welcome back to the channel with me, a very British person, enjoying life and the food here in Monterey, as well as, of course, the rest of Mexico too. Now we're going to try a beer, and that beer is one from the brewery by the name of Jabali, the Wild Boar. Now, this is the beer that we're going to look at, Jabali IPA. Now, Jabali is part of Primus, is the part of the Primus brewery, which is owned by FEMSA, which is in turn owned by Cerveceria, or Heineken Mexico. So let's pour this into my trusty Pilsner Urquell glass. It pours well. It's a good head to it. And there's a good aroma coming off of it. Now, I have a thing about IPAs. If they're very American in style, then they're just overly hoppy, incredibly peppery, and just not enjoyable. And there are so many of these, and I don't know why American brewers seem to think that an IPA has to be hopped up to the eyeballs, because an IPA, the true meaning of IPA, is India Pale Ale. And this style of beer is British. It was brewed for British troops who were stationed in India, and they needed beer, so it was a higher hopped beer than a normal bitter or pale ale. And because IPA is India Pale Ale. So it was a pale ale that had a higher hop content to stand the journey to India. And hops are not just flavoring, they are also a preservative. So the idea of a higher hopped beer meant that the beer was going to be preserved naturally on its travels to India. But the thing is these days is that Americans, or American brewers I should say, seem to believe that an IPA has to be hopped to the eyeballs and have this really harsh taste and harsh aroma too. And that's really not what an IPA should be all about. It should have a higher hop content, but it should be also a slightly stronger beer. Maybe 1% more than a normal pale ale. So if you think of a 4.5%, which beer? Marston's Pedigree. Then an IPA version of that beer would be 5.5. But yeah, I've tried a few IPAs at various beer festivals, and I've tried many American pale ales, or APAs as they tend to be called, and they really are just too much, and you kind of suffer with the amount of hops. They don't seem to get what IPA is actually all about. I've tried many Mexican IPAs, and many of the Mexican ones are less hoppy, less peppery, less unbearable, I guess, than the American counterparts. Sorry, why did I say that? And I would say that a Mexican IPA is far nicer than an American one. And I have had some Mexican ones which are quite high in hop content, but they're actually rather nice, rather well balanced. Especially the ones you get at the Almacén 42, that lovely bar in the Bar Antigua here in Monterrey. And I've had the ones from Guadalajara, and they are lovely. And there's a lovely wealth of IPAs here in Mexico. So, one that is quite common these days is, as I've shown you, Jabali IPA. And here it is. It's a lovely colour. It's a nice colour, has a typical IPA colour. Although I have seen some lagers that have an IPA quality, and those are lovely too, especially the Mexican ones. And Mexico really does experiment very nicely with the idea of beer. And I would say that Mexican craft beers are rather independent brewers. I really don't like that term, craft beer. I like the Mexican term, artisanal. It sounds much better than craft beer. But anyway, here we are with Jabali IPA. And Jabali used to be quite a small brewer. And then it became part of Primus, which is now owned by FEMSA. And in general, I would say a part of Cerveceria, Heineken Mexico, which is why you can find this in the OXXO. But aroma-wise, it's not overly hoppy. In aroma, it doesn't kind of go bang and hit you in the nose. It's more subtle. It's nice. I don't know what hops they use here. I mean, in Britain, you know they are using particular kinds of hops. But here in Mexico, I don't know what the hop is. I don't know if hops grow in Mexico or if they're just using American hops. I guess they are. The first thing you notice when you swirl it around the mouth is that there's not this peppery taste. It's not, that's a bit too hoppy. But as you do that sound, you do get a nice hoppiness. Yet it's not that overly hoppy note. It's nice. And you get that lovely dryness, which is what I like about a nice hoppy beer. That's good. That is with that hoppy note, it's a little Belgian in some ways. There's a very hoppy Belgian beer, which is hoppier than any beer that I've ever tried. I can't remember the name, but it goes really well with seafood. And that is the thing about these new IPAs, especially this, that this would go well with a great ceviche, maybe tacos al gobernador, those wonderful prawn, shrimp, and cheese tacos, which are wonderful. But this has a nice balance. It is a little stronger in taste. It is 5.4% alcohol, so a little more than you would get from Tecate, which is 4.5 or thereabouts. I picked this up at the 7-Eleven, which have now gone back to selling rather good beers. There was a time when they were just selling ordinary stuff and had missed the point and were not selling very interesting beers. Now they are, which is great. I wonder if I've kind of persuaded them. I don't know. Probably because I used to ask, why don't you have so many interesting beers these days? Anyway, yeah. It is lovely. There's a nice fruitiness. It's not that hard hit of hops like with an American IPA. This has a really nice balance. It's this balance of sharpness, a dryness, both associated with hops, and then this fruity floral note, which is a combination of the malts and also the hops too. That is a lovely beer. Ooh, I'm glad I picked this up today. And always with a good beer, you will get the burp factor. Where as you burp, you get the flavors of the beer, which I'm about to do at the moment. Oh, pardon me. Sorry for the burp. But it brings out some of the flavors. Don't be embarrassed about the burp. A good beer taster will always enjoy the burp. Anyway, yeah, that is a really good beer. And I like the fact these days that Mexico has this growing independent band of brewers from everywhere. I mean, Monterrey and Nuevo León has a wealth of great brewers. Many of them, I know the brewers, to be honest, having spoken to them at various beer festivals. But other places, Querétaro has some great beers. Jalisco, obviously, has some great beers like Minerva. And then you go up to Baja California, and there are so many great and wonderful beers. And Mexico City too. There are some great brewers there with some of the most interesting flavors. Flavors that you think, wow, yeah, that's interesting. That's very unlike a Tecate, or very unlike Corona. It's they have in Mexico City and everywhere else beers which are very European and very Mexican and very individual. Mexico, you really are producing some of the most wonderful beers around, in my opinion. And this, I would say, is one of them. Oh, I love that. That is a wonderful beer. So, if you happen to be in the 7-Eleven, although I haven't really seen this in the OXXO, but I'm sure you can get it there, search out this beer. You will not be disappointed by it. That is a lovely beer, and I'm happy that I managed to pick it up in the 7-Eleven. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. There are buttons along the bottom of the screen which will allow you to do this. If you are one of my happy band of subscribers, then leave a comment. What do you think of Mexican beer? Have you tried Jabali IPA? And what's your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that beer? Do you like it? Anyway, leave a comment. A nice one, as I like people to leave. And I'll get back to you. I will always leave a comment on anybody who leaves a comment on the channel. Thanks very much. Bye for now. See you all very soon.